Welcome to Continuing the Conversation, where we bring you authentic AI insights. Last week, we talked about mistake number one, treating AI like Google search. People are asking ChatGPT for facts when they should be using it to think. Today, we're tackling what might even be a more common mistake, trying to use one AI for everything. We call it the Swiss Army Knife Fallacy, the belief that one login, one subscription, and one chat box can do it all. Write your code, draft your emails, analyze your spreadsheets, and be your therapist? It sounds efficient, but in reality, it's making your work mediocre. I'm Chelene Martin, AI enthusiast, business strategist, and someone who spends a lot of time helping people stop treating AI like just another tool and start using it like a true thinking partner. And joining me today is my friend Rob, the CEO of CharmIQ. Rob, are you ready to help these guys break another habit?
Absolutely.
Good. Let's get started. Let's start kind of where it really all starts. Let's start with mindset. Why do people default to using one chatbot, like either ChatGPT or Claude or Llama or Gronk for everything? And why is that a problem?
Fantastic question. When you think about your spreadsheets, you don't typically bounce between Keynote and PowerPoint and everything else, right? You use one tool for everything else. So I would not expect people to use multiple tools to do that. But on the flip side, when you're using your AI, you're using your LLM, you're in a chatbot, you're using it for multiple different things. So in the exact same way that I just said, if you're using PowerPoint, you're probably not using Google Slides, and you're probably not using Keynote, but you're probably not using PowerPoint to, say, do your spreadsheet. You do not go in there and do the one thing. Where I'll say that this is kind of getting interesting and blended is we are getting tools like that. Canva, for example, is becoming an anything, and Notion is becoming an anything. But you don't go to Slack and try to do your PowerPoints. So given that, what I think everyone's doing is when you go into ChatGPT, because it feels like it can do everything, you're just in that one-stop shop for everything bucket. And I think that's what people are doing. But it's really not.
Yeah, early on, about 2 years ago when I was introduced to AI and I started using it, I will admit I was sort of blown away, right, by what I was getting from this tool. And I did treat it like that. But I would then be in a document or in a chat box and I would be doing something business related, right? Like doing a planning strategy for a client or coming up with agendas. And then, I would get a text or a reminder saying I need to come up with my daughter's, 10th birthday invitation and I needed to write a poem. And then I dove deep into that, like my ADD shifted me over there and I was like in this poem mode. And then when I backed back out, I noticed a difference in the results. And so that one resonates with me because I've seen it happen. And if you're just using one chat box, then you're going to see that kind of shift in personalities.
Yeah, and I would say, and I think you're going to get to that next, which is not only are people using the same chat, so you're using ChatGPT or Claude, but you're using like the same window to do all of the same stuff.
Yeah. Yes. Early on, I did that. I was just so enthralled with the opportunity, right? And I would mix things into like certain documents or just certain experiences and then try to navigate my way back. And it was a whole mess. So that's, early on, that definitely is something that I did. So let's talk about context pollution. And you've said this before, and I want to share that with everyone here. So what's actually happening under the hood when we confuse our AI like that, either in one experience or one tool?
Absolutely. Another great question. It's really interesting because it's been changing as the models have been improving. I would say a year ago, they were almost better at kind of blending a really diverse set of things that was going on within your context. Whereas now I have found it really challenging. If I go from topic to topic to topic, it will either hyper focus on one random one that it seems to particularly like for whatever reason within my thread, or it'll always just default to the last thing that I was talking about, which I can imagine they're trying to train it to do is like really follow the closest conversation. And at the expense of all of the previous other things, like almost completely ignoring the fact that I would have wanted it to tie together a whole bunch of things. So to kind of tease that apart a little bit, when you're in a single chat and you do a lot of things, let's say you start with a funny limerick and then you want it to give you an image prompt and then you want it to say what you're going to do with your leftover Thanksgiving meal and then you do That, again, you don't want to blend all those things together because you don't know what it's deciding to put its focus on, whether it's on the closest thing. Another thing I can put in here is I would commonly do that with like a long file that I'm working on over a period of time, and I would have experienced time elapsing between them. But as the machine, it doesn't have the notion of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have had all these things over a minute or a day or a year, and it doesn't know. It would look at the context that you're putting in there and like really look back up and say like, you're talking about your Thanksgiving turkey and then you're asking it what color socks you should wear today. It's like, are those two things related? Do you want that potentially to do? And just to talk about the behind the scenes mumbo jumbo, these transformer models are built with this notion of attention built in. And the way that they're looking at the data is they're trying to, they call these things attention heads, and they find relations between different pieces of context and whatnot that you have together. And then they weight those things and they figure out whether they're relevant or not. What I'm really getting at here is like, we don't know at all how it figures out what pieces that it should combine together. Like, is it taking the turkey stuffing recipe and mixing it together with your socks? Or is it capable of completely disregarding that? And what if you did want to include it in, and if you didn't? So again, all I would say in this big picture is it completely depends on which LLM you're using, and it completely depends on which version of it you're using as to whether or not it blends a lot of that stuff in the context or not.
Yeah. So let's get specific about the different tools. Okay. You've mentioned that not all models are built for the same type of work. And we've seen that throughout the years. What's a key distinction, should we be making there? And this is the question I get asked all the time, and I know you do too, is what model should I be using for business, for personal? Yeah. What's the best at the best?
Yeah, man, that's the $100,000 question du jour. So I'll give you some personal anecdotes on this. Just over the past, it's been 2 weeks. We got GPT 5.1, we got Gemini 3.0 Pro preview, and then we also got Claude Opus 4.5. And we got all of those three modern models within the past, say, 3 weeks. And between those three, they are night and day based on the type of task that you're working on. So I'll give, again, personal anecdotes here. When I am coding something specific and I know that it's visual, and I know it's important that it's a visual aspect, and I know I can get it basically in one shot, absolutely use Gemini 3 Pro. Like, my goodness, does that do a stellar job with a one-shot visual, etc. kind of problem. Now, what I typically do, so everyone, when you're vibe coding, which again, I hate that notion because there's really no vibes in there. You're just defining a constraint space and trying to get it to go there. But a lot of people will just like write 2 sentences and they'll just say go. And that's the worst thing you could do if you're trying to build something. What you really want to do is you want to go into research mode first, and you want to really try to see if it can articulate the thing that it is that you're talking about. So you basically set out, I want to do blah, 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 blah. And then you say, look, don't do anything. We're just talking. We're just trying to figure this out. Give me the pros and cons. Tell me different things that I'm not thinking about. Tell me all that stuff. Now, if you do all of that with Gemini, it absolutely ignores you and it just starts writing code and it just starts producing things. And it's like, stop, you don't even know what we're doing yet. And you're still going. And it's like, oh, sorry, here's what I think. And then it'll start writing code again. And it's like, stop. It is so annoying. But again, if you have a one shot, it's amazing. Whereas on the flip side, the exact opposite, if you use the Anthropic model, so if you use Opus 4.5, you want to absolutely sit down with that dude and be like, here's what we're thinking. And it'll come back with like, what about these ideas? What about those ideas? And so forth. So if you're brainstorming, oh my goodness, is Opus stellar partner to work with. And then sometimes you can just hand it over to the Gemini 3 and just be like, do this thing. And it'll be like, I'm going, I got it, boss. And it's hilarious. And I'll say that I tend to find ChatGPT, GPT 5.1 is not really good at iterating with you, and it's not really good at staying on task. And it's like, I don't know where it fits anymore. So I have a really hard time with that one. And I'll just say some of the other models like Grok are great for iterating and things like that. So, but again, I hope my one example helps, which is, and I would say that wasn't true before. Like before Gemini 3.0 came out, you could absolutely sit down with 2.5 and you could iterate, you could think and all this other stuff. So to the answer to the $100,000 question is is what day is it or what time is it? Because it depends on which model you're using, what type of task that you're working on, whether it's a technical task or a visual task or an iterative or brainstorming or what. And it sucks. And like, this is where we're at there. And I'll just say what I've said before, which is you do not want a single model to do it all, because there is no way that you can have the same set of skills. And just to say, and we mentioned this in the previous episode, that sometimes you want a thinking partner. Sometimes you want a doer. Sometimes you just want something that's just going to shut up and do what it is that you say that you're doing, no matter whether it's right or wrong. Just like do the thing that I asked you to do. And sometimes, again, you want it to think and so forth. So I think it's almost too much to ask of any individual model to do that. Because like, again, how would you, without a lot of context, how would you let it know specifically that you're just like, shut up and do this thing? So I think this is a huge benefit. I also would say for a lot of the casual users, it's really hard to keep up with, again, what's new. Because if I said last month to use Gemini 2.5 for doing this, that's not the same for this month for using Gemini 3.0. So the answer to the $100,000 question is there is no answer.
Yeah, no, I know. And a lot of people ask me, and I say, like, go in there and ask the model, like, what are you great at? What are your strengths? What are your opportunities? Like, I used to use ChatGPT for all of my image creation, 6-8 months ago, and it was fantastic. And I thought it was great. Nope. And now she sucks. Like,
not anymore.
She is not good. She is behind the times. And so they can literally shift from what used to be their strengths to now are their opportunities, right? By simple upgrades. So if the answer isn't one tool, what does that mean? We all need like 5 subscriptions to all these different things, and like, how do we keep up? And if you're a business leader or just a casual user, how do you manage this without losing your mind?
Yeah. So again, fantastic questions. It's almost as if we planned these in advance, but the long story short here is that a lot of so just to real quick say, like, we are at CharmIQ, we're always in the process of like doing our segmentation to figure out like, where do our users fit? The people who use our platform, what do they do? What do they look like? How do they spend their day? And we've kind of bucketed into this notion of a high, medium, and low AI user. And the high AI users absolutely have multiple subscriptions. They have 5 or 6 or 8 subscriptions. They're on Open Router. They're on all these different tools that allow them to use different models. They've even built their own tools to help them use different models. And so we know that the people that are hardcore using this are using many, many models and have many, many subscriptions. And I'll raise my hand and just say one of the things that CharmIQ does extremely well is the fact that we support all these different models. So you have one place where you're working with all of your models, and I absolutely use all of them all the time. Like, when you need to eke out that last little bit of insight, why would you not want to bring in a DeepSeek 2 or a Grok 4? Why would you not bring that in there? It costs pennies. Like, why would you not want that one potential idea that's going to put you over the line? Again, I get it if you have like 15 subscriptions and you're paying for them and everything else, but don't do that. Look for a product like CharmIQ or some of the other ones out there that allow you to just, even if it's a chat window where you can do multiple different models in parallel, you have to try different models to see where they fit. So the short answer is, if you're really good at this, you're going to overspend right now. You grimace a little bit when you're spending, $100 a month on all this stuff, but you look at the work that you're getting done and you look at the quality of the things that you're getting done, there's no comparison. Just, for an example, over the weekend, I built a new feature in CharmIQ that I literally thought was going to take us 6 months to like slowly work through. And I got it done while I was doing laundry on a Saturday. So if that cost me $100, like that is cheap by maybe 3, 4 orders, 5 orders of magnitude.
Yes.
So that's pretty crazy to think about. So look, if you don't have a job right now and you're like looking to pinch pennies, again, there are tools that are at decent price points where you can try all these things. So like, you just have to do a little bit of your comparative shopping.
Yeah. And I want to dive a little bit deeper because I think this is really important in the CharmIQ platform because it is a core differentiator, because people might be listening and they're like, you know what? I am only using Chat or Gronk. Maybe I need to try 2 or 3 more. I'll do the free version, see how it fits. But that's kind of a nightmare. You're logging into different
Yeah.
tools, they act differently. I do want to bring it a little closer to home how CharmIQ is building this in its philosophy, because managing 5 different logins is a nightmare for most people. So if you can just share with us a little bit more about that architecture and Charm.
Absolutely. And thanks for that question. As I always say, I'm a terrible self-promoter.
Yes.
So our focus at CharmIQ is that it's document centric. So it's
Mhm.
not a chat window where you have a canvas to the side or something like that. You are just working in something that looks like Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever. So you're just working in a document and your dudes are in there with you. As many dudes as you want, as many different models as you want, as many different personas as you want, all working in one space. And ever since we launched our applications, probably like a year ago now, you have the ability to bring in everything in there. So it's not just like you're working with Google Docs. We were working on our segmentation exercise, as I mentioned a little bit, and my buddy had an Excel window open and a Microsoft Docs and an Excalibur document. And he had like all of this stuff open. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, what do you mean? What am I doing? I'm like, dude, just open your doc and just tell your dude, go into Charm, open a workspace and just tell your dude like, hey, I got an Excalibur drawing and boom, there's your, like, it's all right there. You don't need to work in 52 different tools. You don't need to go to ChatGPT and then copy and paste into Claude and then put it into Claude Code and then copy it into Cursor and then copy it back and forth. You're in Charm. All of your data is in Charm. You just simply open the document you want or tell the dude to go find the documents that you need.
Yes.
And then you're working with it all in one place.
Yeah. And I love that framing and having your own like virtual office of experts who already know your business or you. Like
Yeah.
that is the beauty of Charm for me. It's a one-stop shop. You're the CEO, like I'm the CEO of my business and my life, right? And I can bring in, whether I'm in one document, one of the things I love most about it is I can be working on a strategy and I can be working with one of my dudes who's like an expert in this like topic. I can bring in somebody from CFO, somebody from marketing, somebody from sales and get their feedback, right? So to poke holes in it. I don't need to log in, log out, open another document. All the context is there. All the experts are there. You're getting different points of view based on the business. And I think for me, that's the power of Charm. I would love to show everyone just what our charms, what it looks like, because we get to name them. They're the experts. We call them in to the office, to the boardroom when we need them. And that's the beauty of it. So it's never getting diluted. They're never getting gaslit, right, by our ADD. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
They're not focusing on Thanksgiving dinner and then trying to write a business strategy for a new client.
Nope.
Right. So there's no gaslighting going on and they're just experts in their field. And I think that for me is the power of Charm, and also that it's a document and not a chat box. Because I think that's one of the beautiful things is you can go in and take things out, put things in. You can have sidebar conversations based on one topic without it getting all muddy. And so that for me is the beauty of this type of platform. It's the platform that manage all of the LLMs that are out there at your fingertips and with a click of a button. So that's the beautiful part of it for me. So hopefully people are listening and they're thinking, wow, this changes how we think about our subscriptions or the tools that we're using, because they're not really tools, they're thinking partners. And these thinking partners have different expertise, right? So we want to make sure if we're looking for images, beautiful creative images, we're probably not using ChatGPT, right? We're using whoever's the leader out there in that. And you'll see those like waves kind of come and go. Also, a lot of people are trying to save money, right? By finding the one tool. But in reality, they're losing the value, right? It's like hiring the wrong talent for the job, which is so beyond frustrating. So
Yes.
I would like to put a challenge out there this week. So everyone, if you're just using one LLM or one subscription, stop trying to find that one tool that does it all and start building out a team that does it all. Think about the LLMs as your team. And like Rob said, CharmIQ is that platform. There are other platforms out there. All of them, you can get a free trial. You can go out there and try them for free. I guarantee you, your experience, if you're just using ChatGPT or Gronk or Llama, going to a platform that has all the LLMs at your disposal is a game changer. You will see that. And so if you're writing a book, use the writer, right? Use the dude that's an experienced writer. If you're editing, use the editor. If you're coding, use the coder. don't hand the paintbrush to your CFO and wonder why there's no image that can be created, right? So before we go, Rob, any last thoughts on this topic? Because it is an important habit to break, and a lot of people are doing it not out of not being trained, Mike, but really not knowing.
Yeah, I would say what we always say at this point, which is you've got to stay curious. You've got to stay interested, and you got to just try new things. There's low risk on all these things. As Chelene said, most, if not all of these platforms have free trials that you can try. Just try them. If you haven't done it in 6 months, the world is completely different than it was even 2 months ago. So have a set of questions that you try and go in and see if the answers get better.
Well, that's one of my favorite things to do is have a document and simply throw out a problem you're trying to solve or something you're trying to accomplish and pull your expert in and then just change the model, and you'll get a whole world of different points of view. And I think that's the most beautiful part of using these types of platforms and not being pigeonholed in just to one worker. Instead of hiring one person, you can hire 25, 50, 100. It's endless. So Rob, thanks for helping us fire the universal genius and hire a real team. And for those of you, links to CharmIQ are below, links to our previous conversations. Please let us know if you have any questions and what you'd like to have us tackle next. There's a lot more bad habits out there, and Rob and I are going to help you break them. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.